Hi and welcome back to my channel. I'm Simon and this is the start of a new reader's journal / reading blog, and the second in, well, it's only the second one I'm doing technically because I hid a load which I will link down below if you're missing the Edinburgh one and the Hull and Sharks and all that kind of stuff one. Anyway, last week's, because they are going to be weekly, I have to keep reminding myself of this, was me reading 3 of the Women's Prize for Fiction longlisted books for 2024, and actually the first 3 for me. And I'm going to be carrying on reading the Women's Prize for Fiction longlist through this vlog too. That was quite a clumsy intro possibly, but anyway, I would have a quick recap just to what those 3 books were. If you want to know how I got on with them, then you need to go and watch that video. And the other reason I want to show you these 3 is so that you know which ones I've read so far, because at the end of the last one I did ask, please don't tell me anything about the ones I haven't read yet, especially if they're ones that you didn't really enjoy, and quite a few people did, so I'm just kindly putting that out there. Books that I have read are River East, River West by Orb Ray Lescure. I have also read Ordinary Human Failings by Megan Nolan and Kate Grenville's Restless Dolly Maunder. I'm a little bit behind. I wanted to get to 4 books a week, so I need to try and do 5 books this week, otherwise I'm going to have to catch up with the following week and it could go on. So back to what I was saying, I'm going to head to some shorter ones first, and out of all the short ones that I've got on the pile, this cover has been calling to me. I have done a video where I judged the long list by their first lines, and last week I read a couple of them based on their first lines being some of my favourites. I think I like the first line of this, but I also had preconceived ideas a little bit of those ones. I have no idea what Hangman by Maya Binyam is about, like literally zero idea. I'm going into this without any prior knowledge or presumptions or anything other than the fact I think the cover is absolutely brilliant. I've just realised that this is giving me Squid Game, so maybe that could be the kind of book it is. I don't know. I'm looking forward to finding out. I've not really heard much about this either. The first line of this book is, in the morning, I received a phone call and was told to board a flight, which is intriguing. Why would you instantly do what you were told, and why are you being told to do that? That intrigues me. So yeah, very excited for this one. And as always, I will catch up with you about 50 pages in, then about halfway through, and then at the end without spoilers. So that is the plan. Well, Oscar likes this book already. Don't you? Or are you bored of it? Oh gosh, actually cat reviewing books like that would be brilliant, wouldn't it, as a little Instagram thing, a reel maybe, like all the kids are doing. I have read the first 50 or so pages of Hangman by Maya Binyam. I read hardbacks without their covers on because I like to keep the cover pristine. Anyway, I am really confused as to what the heck is going on. So from the first line, you hear that somebody has been asked to go to the airport and get on a plane, and then you follow this man as he just follows these odd orders that seem to come from absolutely nowhere. And he gets on the plane, something really weird happens on the plane, then he lands, and then he doesn't know who anyone is, but then suddenly someone's his cousin, and then he's going to their house, but the house is like a maze and he's not really sure where he is. And then we've just had a chapter that's been him discussing his life as a former taxi driver, with a taxi driver in this new country that he's got to, that we don't really know what it is or where he's come from, and the complexities of what happened with one particular ride he had that actually gets a little bit sinister and weird, in order for him to go and take some money out to then give to his cousin to go to a bus depot. I literally do not know what's going on. I'm not weirdly hating it though, I am just struggling with it a little bit. So yeah, the writing is good, but I don't feel like I'm getting, I will say it's quite original. I'm just thinking of the criteria for the prize. Would I say it's excellent? Accessibility-wise, I'm not quite sure because, like I said, I'm super duper confused. So, I'm not wanting to DNF it. I did have a little phase where I thought, or maybe, like, I think it was when I read the first chapter or so, and I was like, I don't know how I'm going to get on with this at all. But I can't say, like, I'm loving it either. So that's my confused, befuddled thoughts at around the 52-page mark. Anyway, I will catch up with you soon. What are you doing in here, Oscar? This is usually Mildred's space, should be cross. even though she's hiding behind the chair and you can't actually see her yet. But she may pounce. Oh, can I see her? Okay. What's up? You hungry? Okay. All right. Hi everyone, it's later on Tuesday. Please excuse the tumbly bop going on in the background. I've been at work today, so I haven't filmed anything since I was in bed this morning. But I have read some more of Hangman, and I'm back to feeling really lost at sea with it again, and a bit like it's just lots of words on a page, which I know is what a book is, but I just am not finding anything that I can anchor myself on, or anything with the character or the setting or what really the book is discussing. So yeah, I'm going to give it another chapter and see how I feel. But yeah, I'm not far. I don't know. I'm so sad because I love this cover so much and I was so excited about reading a book that I didn't really know anything about apart from a few bits and bobs. Anyway, let's not dwell on that. Let's dwell on the excitement of the fact that I am shortly going to be doing the Women's Prize plod along with Mum. We're going to be joining Jem, Charlie and Alice, and I will try to remember to link that down below in case you have missed it. But we're going to be talking about the long list, and I think the Women's Prize shortlist possibly, Women's Prize for non-fiction shortlist possibly. That's coming up, but I'm feeling a bit about this now, and it's a shame because I was excited about it, but I've realised I need something that I can grasp onto, and I'm not being able to grasp anything, just feeling like I'm floundering a bit. So that's not a good way to feel when you're reading a book. But I will say, if I do DNF it, oh no, I haven't decided yet. I'll read another chapter and I'll see how I feel and catch up with you anon. It's just a bin men. People love the bin men on this channel. Hi everyone, it is now lunchtime on Wednesday. I'm working, which is why I'm down in the office. I really need to sort all of this out. It's getting a bit much, although not quite as bad as upstairs. Moving on anyway, I had a lovely time doing the plod along with Mum, the Women's Prize plod along, which brought one of my favourite moments of the internet this year, which I will insert. Well, I'll say, keep your eyes peeled for what you might spot, but it left me in hysterics. I'll insert that now. Bing.
Oh, Simon.
I'm going to say Booker.
Ding, ding, ding.
That is very distracting. That is quite distracting. So there you go. If you saw it, you saw it. I thought it was hilarious. Anyway, moving on. It was great to chat to Alice and Jem and Charlie, along with Mum, about all things Women's Prizes, and I thought I'd have a catch up with you about the Women's Prize fiction reading. I have made the difficult decision, and it's not going to be forever, but it's definitely for now, to DNF Hangman by Maya Bingham, and I'm just not getting enough of a grip on the story, and actually it's reading a little bit like very short vignette-y interconnected short stories without the breaks between the vignettes. I picked up the book and read another chapter, and we were once again, after having followed this narrator randomly onto a plane where someone dies, then to the airport where he doesn't know anyone, but suddenly someone's his cousin, and then he ends up in his cousin's house, but he's really, really lost and it's like a maze, and then we end up in a taxi and we talk about his life as a taxi driver, what's also finding out the taxi driver's story. There's lots of people that are drawn to him to tell their stories, but I don't feel like I'm getting enough of his story to really be as invested as I would like. The writing isn't awful, but because it's so hop, skipping and jumping into all these different encounters with all these people with these quirky tales, I'm just not getting as invested as I want to. This book needs to be with me at the right time, and now is not the right time. And that was sort of solidified when I read this extra chapter and we met Yogurt Man, who, you guessed it, works in yogurt and is going to tell our narrator his entire life story. And then we met the dispatcher, who, you guessed it, is a dispatcher, and he's doing the same thing. And I can't quite get the point at the moment, and maybe there isn't one. Fiction doesn't always have to have a point. If I have time, because I'm also aware that I've got a lot of the book still to read, but if I've got time at the end, to read the final 100 pages of this, maybe I'll head back to it then. If it's shortlisted, I will definitely finish it. And even if it's not shortlisted, it feels a bit like a book actually. Maybe I will read it at some point later in the year or next year or at some point, the right time, but now isn't quite it. So what I'm going to do, but not until probably very late tonight or tomorrow morning, is head to In Defense of the Act by Effie Black, which I thought that pink vibe was a nice thing to carry on with. I hate the term vibe myself all the time. So, what do I know about this book? The answer is not very much. I remember when me and Mum did the Women's Prize Fiction Longlist unboxing, there was something on the blurb about, are you a coffee bean, an egg or a carrot? Which made us laugh and ponder that very question. I think I decided Mum was a carrot and I was probably an egg. Anyway, I'm hoping this is going to be quirky and a little bit funny, although the only other thing that I know about it, actually besides the fact that I believe it's a queer novel, is that it looks at suicide. So this could be quite a tricky read in terms of subject matter. So I'm intrigued to see how Effie Black does it. Obviously the judges think it's quite something. So yeah, I haven't heard of the press before. Epoch Press, I think it is. But yeah, I'm really intrigued for it, so I will head to it later. But it won't be until after I do an event this evening with the wonderful Charlotte Vassell to talk about her second novel, The In Crowd. We're being reunited back at West Kirby Books, where we talked about The Other Half last year, which I absolutely loved. If you haven't got to these books and you're a crime and thriller fan, you should definitely do so. Charlotte Vassell does that thing that I love in crime, where she uses crime to bring up subjects and issues in society now. So this book is very much about race, class, privilege, power, the abuse of those two things, and how, I don't want to give too much away. They're also proper propulsive romps, and I don't mean that to lessen it, because people can feel funny about the word romp. There is a sprinkling of camp, I think, throughout, but you're just like invested and you're with the characters and you're intrigued by who done it and why they did it and what's going on. Can't recommend this series enough. I'm hoping there's going to be a third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th, but yeah, really looking forward to that tonight. So I'll try and get some footage of that, or get Chris to, and I will catch up with you about In Defense of the Act. Either, well, no, I'm not going to do it very late on because the lighting will be rubbish, so I'll have a catch up with you when I've got to the first 50-ish pages, or possibly a little bit more, tomorrow. I will see you then.
Welcome to the West Kirby Bookshop. I'm delighted this evening to welcome Charlotte Vassell to West Kirby to talk about her second novel, The In Crowd. We had Charlotte with us last January for her first book, The Other Half, which was really great, so it's a real pleasure to be back again with Simon Savage, which is always fun. How it's going to go this evening is Charlotte will give us a short reader from the book, and then she'll have a nice chat with Simon before opening up to questions from the audience, and then time for anyone to get books signed at the end. So please do buy a copy if you don't have one already.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Hey everyone, it is now Thursday lunchtime. It's a working day, so I'm catching up a little bit later than I planned. I'm actually going to be filming something for it's a project that we're working on. I'm really passionate about, and we'll tell you more about in a little bit. I thought I would have a catch up with you about everything bookish. It did look like we ended up in a nightclub last night. It was just a pizzeria with disco balls, which frankly might be my new favourite thing. It was really lovely. Jordan, Dan, Chris and I went for dinner after my event with the wonderful Charlotte Vassell. I now have a finished copy of The In Crowd, which Charlotte very kindly signed for me, and also got Pip a copy of the first in the series, The Other Half. And exciting news, there is going to be a third in the series, then a standalone, and then hopefully a couple more in this series. So lots to look forward to. It was a good time last night, and these are a good time. And like I said, if you've not got to them, please do. Now, in terms of what I have been reading, I've been a little bit naughty because I started In Defense of the Act last night, and there was quite a lot of it this morning before work. When I say quite a lot, pretty much half of it. And I am enjoying, feels like the wrong word to say about a book with the subject matter this has, because at the heart, this book is very much about suicide, and we meet Jessica, whose one of her earliest memories is her father trying to commit suicide or trying to take his own life. In fact, I'm still not sure what the terminology is right or wrong. Oh, Biscuit's come in to say hello. But it doesn't just look at that, even though that's what Jessica ends up studying, and she looks at suicide within animals, which is quite grimly fascinating. For example, males who mate knowing that they're going to probably get eaten. But also at the same time, this book is very much about Jessica and looks at the relationship with her father, which proves to be very tricky. It looks at her coming out as a queer woman. There's the most brilliant scene set at a book club where I think they're talking about a little life, and I felt so seen, but also just the characters within the book club. Effie Black is brilliant at looking at certain sort of, I guess, set pieces of life and capturing them so perfectly. Also the way she describes a relationship that she's in that kind of goes a bit wrong, the way she looks at friendships, and yeah, I think the writing is crackling. I will say, and you know that I've talked about fonts before, I don't really love the font in this book. I do like the chapter headings, and there are chapters that are a bit different from those, where they're called Black Days, and I can't quite work out what a black day is. I feel like maybe a funeral, I'm not quite sure. Font is not my favourite. Oh, I don't know if you can see that. It's not actually bothering me because I'm so in with Effie and her writing. I don't know where it's going to go, can't figure that out yet. I guess we're going to be leading more into this Black Day, whatever that might be, and I will report back when I finish it, which is probably going to be later on today, because when I get into it I just find it really hard to put it down, and that's so good after what happened with my little DNF issue. I'll report back in due course. So the project that I mentioned that I'm going to be filming for shortly is an appeal on behalf of the charity that I work for part-time, Libraries Connected, and we are crowdfunding, well, we want 10 grand to crowdfund to buy a decommissioned mobile library from a UK library service, and we're going to renovate it, stock it with Ukrainian language books, and then drive it from the UK to the Ukrainian border through Europe. And if we get the money, it's going to be quite amazing. I'm very excited for it. I'm going to be hopefully going along with both the renovation process and the stocking process, but also with the bus as it heads to the Ukraine, and creating content of that. And it's something that I'm really passionate about. I think it's really important. Over 600 libraries have been damaged or destroyed in the war. I will link the crowdfunder down below if it's gone live yet. It might not have, but if it has, I'll link that down below. That's what I'm gonna be doing this afternoon, once Biscuit allows me to, because he's now ensconced on my knee. I'll report back in due course once I've finished In Defence of the Act, which could be, oh no, I'm going to need to do it tonight because tomorrow I've got to be up really early because I was going to do falconry, but more on that later. More on that later. That's me being Kirsty Wolf. Biscuit, have you any thoughts on this book at all? I just realised that everyone didn't get to see you for very long. So, any thoughts on this? No? You're keeping your opinions on the long list to yourself until the shortlist, right? Yeah? You sick of my shit? Yeah. Hi everyone, it is later on Thursday. I filmed that video, and like I said, if the campaign is live, crowdfunder's live, I'll link that down below. I'm sat here partly because the light is really good, because it is well, late evening. It's so nice that it goes dark at like 8 o'clock at night now. Anyway, let's not get up on that subject. That's not what we're here to talk about. Moving on. I'm also sat here to embarrass myself and shame myself for the dreadful state of these shelves. I really need to sort this room out. It's gone beyond a joke. But what I'm going to do is tell you that I have finished In Defence of the Act by Effie Black, and I think this is quite an incredible book. It beguiled me, partly in the fact that the way it's written is so conversational, and so there's something about Jessica and the people she encounters and the things that she goes through, generally day to day, the less dramatic elements, because there are some really traumatic and dramatic elements in this book. But when she's going through that, like the book club that I mentioned before, you feel like you've seen those people, you've had those experiences, and that is quite a magical gift for an author to have. I also think the way that she looks at the subject matter around people who end their lives is done so compassionately. There's also, like I mentioned, this look at almost like the science behind it from the perspective of animals, but therefore people, because humans are animals. It's a book that I feel a bit numb from, because it's made me think so much. It's very thought-provoking. It's quite often really uncomfortable. I would seriously recommend it. Obviously, if there's anything within what I've talked about that is, you know, triggering for you, don't. But I have experience of this subject in my family when I was much younger, and it really made me think about that. And it really made me think about the person. It made me think about the assumptions people make and how that person is spoken of sometimes after the event, and also how it can change people's perceptions. It's really just made me think about the whole subject in a very different way. And at the same time as doing that, this book made me laugh. It made me very emotional. This has been a real surprise in a really good way. And I think it's a book that's made me really think. And I think I probably need a little bit of time from it to be able to speak about it more. And I will do a video before the shortlist is announced, talking about all of the books on the long list and saying which ones I would personally shortlist. There we go. I'm not going to pick up another book because I feel like I just want to have space to let the dust settle on this one. I think it is a book that's going to really, really stay with me. So what I'm going to do is, I don't know, maybe watch some more Heartbreak High. It's been revamped. I was an OG watcher back in the OG watcher, who do I think I am? I think I'm down with the kids now. I used to watch it back in the 90s, and it's been lovely having some of those characters come back. And there is a new series, and Marie Cardi is one of the writers on it, and I'm obsessed with Marie Cardi. So yeah, anyway, I think maybe that's what I watch, because it's quite, again, although that deals with some really heavy subjects and is quite light-hearted at times, and yeah. So anyway, I won't catch up with you in the morning because I've got to go out super duper early, as I mentioned, as I'm off to go and do falconry, which is one of my birthday presents. Keeping my birthday going almost 2 weeks later. Delightful. I love birds of prey. I'm super duper excited. I'm not sure Chris is so excited, but I think he'll have a good time. But I'll report back afterwards and let you know how I get on. I mean, unless I get carried away by a vulture. Could happen, who knows. I will catch up with you tomorrow at some point about birds and books. I'll see you then. Hi everyone, back from falconry, which was, I think, one of the best, if not the best, experience that I've ever had with all of my clothes on. And before you think I'm being dirty, I would say swimming with dolphins just cinches it, and that's in your trunks. So I don't know, maybe it is, I'd say it's equal, because I have loved birds of prey since I was very little, when I lived in Matlock Bath and we got new neighbours, and they'd owned the zoo at Ryber Castle in Matlock, and had, after they sold it, kept some of the animals, including a golden eagle called Mr. Khrushchev, who I used to go in his aviary, which was massive, and feed dead mice from about the age of 6. Don't what my family were thinking, but that's when I kind of fell in love with them. Plus, I've always had a bit of a thing about kites because we used to see kites on the road from my great-grandparents in Nottingham back to Matlock. So anyway, that was fabulous. As you will have seen, we started with a little owl and then just worked our way up, and actually then got to help them as they flew a kite that they haven't had with the public very much, and it wouldn't land on us, but it would steal food, like swoop and steal. It was so fast. Yeah, it was just incredible. So that was amazing. Anyway, I'm back and I need to pick what I'm going to be reading next. And after all of that, well, pretty much living my Tudor fantasy as well with all that balcony, I was like, oh, and I know this isn't Tudor, but I was thinking, oh, it could be a good time to head to historical fiction. But I'm saving this and Chetna Maru's novel for the book break spa break that I'm going on Monday and Tuesday. And I meant to say, I think I'm going to extend the vlog up until I go to London next week. So it's going to be probably an even longer vlog. I'm not going to head to this one as I thought, because I've really been wanting to get to The Blue Beautiful World by Karen Lord. I read Karen Lord's Redemption in Indigo quite a few years ago when I had a podcast called The Readers, and we had a book club, and she came on the book club to talk about the book with us, and we loved it, and she was fabulous. And so I haven't read any science fiction, or I think this is a first contact novel. Plus I think it looks at climate change and stuff. So it's just, I mean, I don't love the cover, I won't lie. I have no preconceived ideas about it, other than I do remember actually in the blurb it says something about a pop star saving the world. So I'm hoping that this could be a bit bonkers and quirky and funny at the same time. I think the first line didn't convince me. The emissary kept on digging his own grave, centimetre by centimetre, word by word. I don't know, is that literal? Is it metaphorical? I'll find out when I get cracking with it, which I'm going to do shortly. I do actually like the colours. Is it meant to be an I? Or is it meant to be an AI? Do you see what I did there? It also looks a little bit like the weather from above a planet, sort of, but rainbow. Maybe there's a queerness to it, I don't know. I shall report back on this tomorrow, but also just wanted to say what an amazing day and what a fabulous extended birthday that I'm having because of that extra birthday gift that I got today from Chris. So yeah, right, I'm gonna go now. I'll catch up with you tomorrow.
I can't tell you what the questions will be because I don't know myself yet. But when I do know, I still won't tell you.
Hi everyone, it is Saturday and I've DNF'd The Blue Beautiful World, only 50 pages in, not very far at all, but I was really struggling with this book in terms of working out when it was set, if it was this Earth or somewhere else, or what the chuff was going on. And there is a pop star element, but I was finding that quite dull. And I kept feeling like I was missing something, like I needed more. Something wasn't quite there. And I looked at the back of the book and suddenly there's a load of character names and there's a load of sort of information. I'll show you now. And it turns out that this is the third in a series of books. Now, each book should stand alone. Don't know what happened to voice then. Should stand alone. This, I feel like I'm missing the previous two. And it was just bothering me because it just felt a little bit two-dimensional. I mean, there was also a lot of talk about AI without any real, I don't know, you were sort of just thrown into AI rather than eased in gently. So that links to my accessibility thing. Did I forget to judge in the defence of the act by accessibility? I think I forgot to do the first sentence as well. Oh, well, we'll sort that out in a bit. Anyway, let me carry on chuntering on about this. I don't know, I just feel a bit like, and I even phoned my mum practically to get a sick note, and I was like, Mum, can I DNF books if I'm reading the whole of the long list? And she was like, why are you even asking? Of course you can. It's meant to be fun, and you're not going to love every book necessarily. I mean, it's in an ideal world you might, but yeah. I feel sad though, because I did really enjoy Redemption in Indigo, and this just fell flat for me. Would I head to the first in the series after trying this? Not really. And actually, I would say I'm going to make a plea actually to all publishers, but also I think there should be a rule for prizes. Any book past the first in the series should not be allowed to be submitted, because one, if it's like this, you might just not get it. But also, like in the case I was thinking about Hilary Mantel, it puts so much pressure on the third one to win the Booker after the first two had. And I don't know, I just don't necessarily think that's fair on other authors either. So there we are. That's my thoughts on this. I'm not going to head to another Women's Prize book yet, because I actually need to read a book for an event next week. So I'm going to do that. And what I'm going to do instead is leave you with my thoughts on Nightbloom. I should have brought that downstairs with me, shouldn't I? Right, I'm back because I now have a copy of Nightbloom by Peace Adso Mehdi, which I actually started reading about 4 or 5 weeks ago in one of many, many, many failed reading blogs that I have started and given up on in 2024 so far, but I'm determined that I will keep doing them from now. I was in London and reading the paperback edition of it, and I captured my thoughts as I was on a trip, partly for work. I also went to an event where I got to meet one of my absolute favourite authors, IRL, after, almost a decade of DMing them, not in a stalkery way, just to add. I thought I would insert those here whilst over the next sort of 24 hours-ish I head to a book that I need to read for an event next week, and we can catch up afterwards. Now, I will say I don't think I have my pre-read thoughts or my preconceived ideas on what Nightbloom might be, probably because I didn't really have any, because other than the fact that I knew the author had been up for Reese's book club, I didn't know anything else about the book. So yeah, it was pretty much a blank canvas for me going in, which is how I like a lot of books. So I'll leave you with how I get on, and then we'll catch up tomorrow, and I'll let you know if I'm going to carry on with it or not. Oh, there's a teaser. Yeah, so I will catch up with you then. Everyone, I am now in a generic hotel, which is right next to the railway lines, which some people would hate, but I really like, because it's got quite a comforting rumble, but very, very quiet. You can't really hear it. I seem to be losing my voice. Don't know what that's about. It happened when I was talking during my meeting at work today. Anyway, very quick catch up, because I need to head out, as I'm going to be meeting Charlotte Wood, I'm so excited, at the Sceptre Showcase. I'll have a catch up with you very quickly about Nightbloom by Peace Adso Mehdi, and I am about 55 pages into this, about chapter 5, and it's so far about Corfa and Sarsi, as I was saying, they're cousins. They've got this really tight bond we learn from very, very young. They were born on the same day, which linked them. Their families have some complexities, and so they've had times where they've been separated, but that friendship has continued to blossom. And we've gone through quite a few different schools with them, seeing the differences in both their lifestyles and both of their aptitudes, and how important education and grades are for the future of young women in Ghana. And I'm finding it interesting. I'm not gripped so far, and there is a bit of me that's kind of like, I've seen this before. I've seen it in Abidare, who'll be actually at the event tonight. I've seen it in Stay With Me by Ayobami Adebayo, and I'm like, what's this going to add that's new? That's what I'm intrigued for. So far, I'm not sure it is, but I'm going to keep going because there's like another 300 pages to go. So that's my thoughts so far. Like, it's not bad, but I'm not like, wow, this is amazing, the writing's blowing me away, or the plot's doing anything particularly different than I've seen before. But I'm prepared to be amazed, astounded, or just like surprised. So I shall report back. Anyway, off to go to the event. Can't wait to meet Charlotte, I'm so excited.
Goes home to the area in country Australia where she grew up, but she kind of almost goes there out of sort of animal instinct, really, and it's not to her actual old home, but strangely to a closed community of nuns. She's an atheist. She has no interest in God or religion, but she finds a kind of uncomfortable peace in this place. She doesn't really know why she's gone there. She's like an animal returning to a burrow, really.
She opened up her new assignment. Twisted Night was the sequel to the highly successful erotic thriller Dark Night, which took the lid off the glamorous, shocking world of Hollywood's private sex clubs. Very spicy, said the editor, but possibly written a little too quickly. Even the title seemed to demand a margin note because a night might be hard or hot or endless, but in what sense could it be twisted? She soon found out.
I finally, after 8 years, got to meet Charlotte Wood, who's one of my favourite authors and just a wonderful human being. And we had a right old natter. And yeah, it was just fab, really, really lovely. They say don't meet your idols, but sometimes you should. Morning everyone, it is Thursday. I have read some more of Night Bloom and it has got better. There's also some elements that I'm still a little bit unsure of, but I'm going to have a catch up with you properly at the end of part 1 because I realised that there's a part 1 and a part 2 and indeed a part 3. So I thought I'd have a quick catch up with you with that, and I'll probably, well definitely, have a chat with you when I get home. Hi everyone, I am back from London. As you can see, I've been reunited with Biscuit, who has got a toy that he is very much a fan of. Anyway, how am I getting on with Night Bloom? The answer is okay. I'm enjoying it. I'm not necessarily loving it. There are moments that I think are really interesting around the whole discussion of education for girls in Ghana and expectations around young women and women indeed in Ghana, along with family. Sorry, it's very windy outside. Honestly, the wind, what is going on? Might be about to be escorted to Oz at any moment. I'm quite worried I'm gonna get blown away. Anyway, all that stuff around women and families I'm finding interesting. Also, as I mentioned, I think there's this whole thing around how Akorfa is sort of denying her heritage and her history and sort of wanting to become American and get lost in the American dream, and in doing so forgetting or sort of hiding where she comes from. I think that's really interesting, but at the same time having certain expectations around race and what she can do in America which aren't matching the reality of what she's seeing. So that's really interesting. I was in Foyles earlier and I was at the cafe and I met the lovely Joseph. Hello Joseph. And I asked him what he was reading, and he just finished this and he said that it gets really good in the second half. For me, there is a question there around, should there be a book on a long list that gets better in the second half? I don't know. Sorry, somebody wants my attention. Come on, Biscuit. Good boy. That was a really timely conversation. It was also really nice to meet you, Joseph. So there we are. Biscuit, what are your thoughts on anything and everything? No, you're going to go back and hump your bed. Okay, fine. Hi everyone, it is now Sunday afternoon. I finished the book that I needed to read for work, so that's all good. And I told you I would let you know if I'm going to carry on with Night Bloom or not, after the lovely Joseph said that I should. And I am going to carry on with it, but you may have guessed it from that slight pause, I'm not going to carry on with it now. If this is shortlisted, I will carry on reading it in between shortlist to winner, as obviously I want to make sure that I've read every word of the shortlist so that I can choose a worthy winner. And me and Mum will be doing videos together on the shortlist, both for the fiction and the non-fiction, so that's exciting. But for me, I had a little bit of a read on and I do feel like it's possibly going to be a bit more engaging, but I'm just going to wait because there's other books I want to get to sooner, which I think is fair enough. So there we go. Now, the first line of this, as I said, I had no preconceived ideas about the book, but the first line, when I judged them by first lines, was, "My mother said that she'd always known," which is a first line I quite like, because it's like, well, what has she always known? And there's that whole thing about mothers knowing everything better and all that kind of stuff going on. So I enjoyed that. I also forgot when I talked about In Defence of the Act, which I am still thinking about all these days later. Well, 3 days later. The first line of that is, "The blonde woman who I'm pretty sure said her name is Amy, but who doesn't really look like an Amy, more like an Anne, peers out as us in our rows." I didn't love that first line, but it's not representative of the rest of the book, as I discovered. So yeah, I just wanted to make sure we caught up with that. And I'm going to let you know what I'm going to be packing to take away with me tomorrow. I don't think I'm going to do any more reading today because I have read a book for work on my weekend quite intensely. It was brilliant, but I'm not going to tell you what it is. You'll have to wait for my wrap up. I think I'm going to do a February, March, April combined wrap up, excluding the women's prize for fiction books, because you've had a lot of content about it here, and there will be the video where I talk about the whole long list and then pick my short list. On to what I'm planning on reading next. I am going away tomorrow to Buxton for a couple of days for the book break, spa break, which is a lovely trip planned by the folk at Pam Macmillan and Picador. And so I thought I would take the 2 books by Pam Macmillan and Picador with me to read on that book break, spa break. The first of those is The Maiden by Kate Foster. I've mentioned before, I don't really love this cover very much. However, I did really love the first line, it just hooked me. It also says, Chapter 1, Christian, the Tolbooth Jail, Edinburgh, October 1679. You are sentenced to a beheading. I'm really intrigued, and after the falconry, have also been hankering after more historical fiction. I say more because the last book that I just read that I'm being really secretive about was a historical fiction book. Teasy McTeaserton. I'm intrigued for this one. The cover does put me off slightly, but I've heard quite good things since the long list has come out. It won the Bloody Scotland Crime Debut of the Year, so that intrigues me. A historical crime. I'm up for that. So yeah, this is one of the books. And then the other one, as I showed you before, is Western Lane by Chetna Maru, which is a book about, I think it's 3 sisters who, after their mother's death, their father gets into squash quite heavily as a way of dealing with their grief. And that intrigues me. The first line didn't do anything for me when I made that first lines video, which was, I don't know if you've ever stood in the middle of a squash court on the tee and listened to what's going on next door. No, can't say I have. This was up at the Booker, quite short, and I do, very like Mum actually, I do find grief, well, it's a fascinating subject because it's something we all experience at different points in our life, but we don't really tend to talk about, but also we all experience it really differently. That intrigues me. So which of these to start with? I think it's probably going to be this one, but I don't think I'm going to start it until tomorrow. Oh, I say that, I'm on quite an early train. Maybe I should start it tonight, because I have learned from experience, if I start a book on a train, I invariably don't read it because I get obsessed with what's going on outside the window. I'll start some of this later, although we are watching the new version of Roadhouse, which in the previous vlog, I may have caught a little bit of a flash of Patrick Swayze's bum. So let's see if there's any bottoms in that a little bit later. But yeah, that is what I will be starting after that, and I'll report back probably from Buxton. Hi everyone, I am now in Buxton and I'm at the Crescent Hotel, the Insana Spa Crescent Hotel, because the lovely folk at Book Break have invited me and some other fabulous folk for a spa break. And in this bag are lots of lovely goodies. There's some face masks, there's some lovely help you get to sleep things, which I don't think I'm gonna have any problem with this bed. And yeah, it's ace. I have been reading, but I'm not halfway yet, so I'll have a catch up with you when I am. The Maiden. I am very much enjoying it. And I've absolutely, I can't be trusted. This is why I take proofs with me, you can't see, but this is why I take proofs with me generally, because I will damage a book unintentionally when travelling, but I have spotted there are some lovely pristine finished copies of these in the room that we are spending most of the day in, so there we go. Anyway, I've got a massage booked shortly, a bespoke one where basically I get to choose where I've got my aches and pains, shoulders, necks. I was going to do head, shoulders, knees and toes then anyway, let's all move on. Then we've got lunch, and then we're going to be doing some various different activities, I think, and then there'll be a dinner later and a day to just chill in the spa tomorrow. I need to get going, but I thought I'd just have a quick catch up with you now. I'll be back later on when I can tell you about what books I may have snagged.
I feel like the lighting is the other way. It's like, of course I should think about.
Hey up, it is later on. Had the most amazing massage. It was great. Also, I've done a little bit of embroidery, which I'm not prepared to share with you all now, frankly. Here are the books that I picked up today. So first of all, as I mentioned, The Maiden. This nice and pristine for me after I have battered the other one so much. I also got a book that's coming out in August called They Dream in Gold by my Senar, and this is about music. Sarah Jessica Parker loves it. It says Mansour's sound is unique, a fusion of the polyrhythms of Senegal and the wild beats of East Coast American jazz. And this is giving me slight Fire Rush vibes in terms of a book about music that I might actually enjoy, because I really enjoyed Fire Rush and I don't normally enjoy books about music. So there's that. A finished copy of Whalefall, which loads of people have been raving about, by Elizabeth O'Connor. I know nothing about it, but it's nice to have a finished copy because then I can, you guessed it, batter the proof around like I have The Maiden. I got this treat, Homebody by Theo Parrish, discovering what it means to be me. I think this is just going to be a really, really brilliant queer graphic memoir. I'm excited for that. And then a memoir that I'm super duper excited about because I heard Heather O'Neill talk about it a while back and rave about it. It's Sociopath, a memoir by Patrick Gagney, and I'm really, really intrigued for this. It's about her life as a sociopath. Apparently it is quite confronting, so very excited for this. Could be up, maybe, for the Women's Prize for Non-Fiction next year. Anyway, there we are. That's a haul. I'm going to go and we're doing a reverse book club, which I've not heard of before, and then having dinner, and then I'll be back in this bed, which is so comfy. I lay down and nearly fell asleep, but that might also be to do the massage because I did possibly fall asleep a little bit, nodded off during that. Then I'll be heading back to The Maiden and I'll be able to have a catch up with you about it, hopefully, either later on or tomorrow.
Please do not. It's not your. Please do not drink the potion.
Hey everyone, it is now Tuesday and a very quick catch up from me. I am halfway through The Maiden by Kate Foster and I'm still very much enjoying it. And I love how Violet and Christian's stories are coming together. I won't give anything away on that front, but it's got very twisty and we're only halfway through. So that's really intrigued me. The one thing I will say is that in Christian's story going forward from when she escapes the Maiden on the cover, I do think that's something that should be made more of it, because I didn't know about kissing the maiden and how that was what another term for execution was. Anyway, when she's escaped that, for now, we go forward and sometimes the time slip between them going back to her story and Violet's story as they go forward can be a little bit discombobulating, but only a tiny bit, and only for maybe like a sentence or a paragraph or so. But other than that, really, really hooked. Can't quite work, well, I think I maybe can work out where it's going to go, but I can't quite work out how it's going to take that long to get there. So I'm assuming there's going to be more twists and turns. And I have heard that this is based on a true historical crime / event. So intrigued to find out more as we go on, because then I'm going to go and Google it and find out more on this. Maybe there's something in the back of the book, sometimes there is. Anyway, so yeah, very much enjoying that. Now about to go off to the spa, which I'm very, very, very excited for. Check out, then spa, and then I'm going to head over to Manchester, and I will catch up with you probably when I get there. Hi everyone, it is quite a bit later on. It's about 8:30, I think, and I am now in Manchester in one of my favourite hotels, the Allen, which I've already panned. I think I've shown it in a few vlogs before, and I may well be here this time next week actually. I had a fab time in the spa in Buxton. I'm so gonna have to go back at some point because 3 different pools. They had lots of different types of saunas and steam rooms and aroma rooms and all sorts. So yeah, it was ace. And then got the train over here, then checked in, but actually had to do a little bit of work. As I mentioned earlier in this vlog, filmed a video for an appeal that we're doing to raise money for a mobile library to send to Ukraine, and I need to do a few edits and stuff on it because they want it to go live tomorrow. So I spotted that on my email, thankfully, and then to do a little bit more reading of The Maiden, but I haven't finished it yet, so I'm not going to talk about that too much. However, I got distracted a little bit because when I went to Greg's, I ended up talking to Annie, one of the team at Pam Macmillan, about Greg's earlier today, so felt that I needed one. Also, there have been not 1 but 2 shortlists announced today. So the first one is the Carol Shields Prize shortlist for books by women from Canada and America, I think, or books that have been published in America and Canada maybe. So that looks corking, and I do have all 5 of those books. I think it's 5, it could well be 6, but I think I've got all 5 or 6 of those books. I've got all of those books. The other announcement today was the International Booker Prize shortlist. Now, when it got announced, I had 1 of those books. However, I've got my arms granted. Oh, he's back. I went to go and have a look at House of Friends, the indie bookshop that I really like in Manchester. I say I really like it. I haven't bought much from it. It's quite a selection of books. That's not shade, I'm just saying, and they didn't have any of them there. However, I then went into Waterstones, and what I wanted to do was get a feel of each of the books and like properly, you know, try a little bit of the writing, see what I thought about the blurb, which I know I don't tend to read really. I prefer to just go a little bit blind, but I wanted to get a bit of a feel. And so Waterstones had them all. I went and left Waterstones because my aim is to try and buy things just from independent bookshops, which isn't, again, no shade to Waterstones, but I do feel now that they've got foils and Blackwells, like that's a huge amount of the market. Anyway, went and had Dishoom, which was lovely, and then went back to Waterstones, and you guessed it, I bought all 5 of the books that I didn't have from the Booker International shortlist, and I then spent about 40 minutes filming and about 20 minutes editing a reel about them, and that is mainly what I've been doing this evening. So that's where we're at. I'm now going to go and have a shower, get into this here bed and finish this book, because I do actually miss it a bit when I'm not reading it. So that's quite interesting itself, but we'll talk about that more when I do a wrap up of it. My arm is literally going to die now, so I'm going to go, but I will catch you all when I've read this, probably in the morning. Morning everyone, it's Wednesday and I have finished The Maiden. I've really enjoyed this. This was a proper historical romp. I was gripped, I was hooked. And I forgot to mention several times actually that it's set partly in Edinburgh, and I love Edinburgh. It's one of my favourite cities. And when we went to the Houses of Ill Repute in Edinburgh, and when we went to the jails in Edinburgh and all that gothic delight, I absolutely loved that. I think maybe, and it's going to be odd saying this because it does have a real propulsion to it, but I think it could have been possibly a little bit shorter, because the big thing happens when there's still almost 100 pages to go, and whilst there are still some twists and turns, I felt like it was a tiny bit eked out, but still really enjoyed it. And I'm definitely going to be reading Kate Foster's next book, which I think is out in June, unless I can snaffle a sneaky proof at some point. Anyway, really enjoyed this. And yeah, in terms of accessibility, 100% accessible. In terms of originality, it's a tricky one because I feel like I have read this sort of book before, where it's a historical novel with a crime, sometimes based on a true crime like this one was. Originality, maybe a little bit less for me than some of the others, but it's interesting because the most original one that I've read I wasn't sure about, so I don't know. In terms of excellent, yes, I would say this is a really well written novel. I think, like I said, it could have been a little bit shorter maybe, but also there was a bit of confusion sometimes between Christian's timelines because of the fact that we also had Violet's timelines in there too, so occasionally maybe that could have been simplified or done in a different way, but it only jarred, like I said, I think before, for like a line or two or a paragraph or so it wasn't a major issue. And I feel really bad being like nitpicky because I did really enjoy this, but I think with the women's prize books particularly, because I'm reading them and sort of judging them, it's not that I'm judging them more harshly. Maybe this is just why I need to be like with all books. I'm always worried that I'll offend an author, because Kate Forster, if you ever see this, I did really enjoy this, but I think it's about just, yeah, talking honestly about my reading experiences of it. Anyway, next up is going to be, I don't have the dust jacket on because I never do. This is, you can't really tell either from that, Western Lane by Chetna Maru, another short one that I thought I was going to have started possibly on Monday, let alone blinking Wednesday, so I'm a little bit behind again. I'm gonna go because I've got to get to another hotel in Manchester to go to a Bloomsbury breakfast where they have 4 authors talking about their books over breakfast, as well as some of the team from Bloomsbury talking about other highlights that are coming up, so that'll be fun. And of course I'll take you along, and I'll probably catch you when I'm back at home.
Thanks very much for coming. Enjoy your 30 plants a week. Don't feel you have to stop there. 40, 50. Go crazy for it.
Hey up everyone, it is now Thursday and I'm going to wrap the vlog up here. I've got quite a few things to talk about though, so it's not like it's going to be a sudden short cut off. But yeah, I have been a naughty sausage, first of all, as on the way back from Manchester yesterday, and I will share the books that I got at the Bloomsbury brunch in my April book haul, but I started Western Lane, loved it, read more of it in the bath last night and then finished it this morning, but didn't actually film anything. I don't know what, but since that spa, I have been shattered. Well, since that massage, actually, I think all my toxins are coming out and everything. Anyway, suffice to say, I really enjoyed this. It really surprised me, partly because I've never really been a big fan of the cover. I wasn't sure I was going to enjoy the squash element. I didn't really like the first line, but once it started, oh my goodness, there's a scene where one of the sisters is speaking in Gujarati to their dead mother that I think will stay with me forever. It was utterly heartbreaking, beautiful, just wonderful. And the way this looks at culture and beliefs around death and maybe things you are and aren't supposed to believe, plus the way it looks at grief and how I think Chetna Maru does something really clever in the fact that we hear what's going on from the girl's perspective. However, as adults, we're seeing the different nuances behind what they're seeing in the behaviours of the adults around them. I thought that was just done so wonderfully. And yeah, this was a real surprise to me. I feel like it's one of those books that I need to let settle before I can talk about it more, which sounds like a real cop-out, but I promise it's not. But yeah, and also one of those ones that I don't want to spoil because it is very short, but I can totally see why it was on the Booker shortlist. I can totally see it why it's on the Women's Prize long list. I think this is, yeah, I really like this book a lot. So, what I thought I would do before I sign off is I'm going to end this vlog here. Goodness knows when I'm going to get time to edit because tomorrow I'm off to London and I've got a really hectic weekend. So when you see this, you see it. But what I wanted to do is firstly remind you of the 3 books that I had already read before this vlog started. So these 3 here. You've got Ordinary Human Failings, River East, River West, and Restless Dolly Maunder. And then go through sort of my order of preference of the ones that I have read and DNF'd in this video. So last, and currently I won't lie least, is The Blue Beautiful World by Karen Lord. For me, this just, it felt not unfinished, unstarted, which sounds so daft, but because I hadn't had the preamble of the 2 prior books, I genuinely think if I'd read those, I would have got a lot more out of this. And for me, it just adds to the thing that I do say quite a lot, that I don't think that books after the first in the series should be submitted for prizes, because I don't think it does any, it's not fair on the reader, and I don't think it's really fair on the author. So we have that. Then we have Night Bloom by Peace Adzo Mehdi. Again, apologies Joseph, I will head to this one at some point. I mean, this is a DNF forever unless I read the other two, and unless it's shortlisted. But this one, I think I could head back to at some point, and if it is shortlisted, which I feel maybe it could be. I mean, I'm hearing so many people say how readable they found this, whereas I don't know, I found it a bit of a struggle sometimes, but maybe the second half will improve. But then, I don't think I said this, if it takes the second half of a book to make it amazing, should that be on a long list? Again, just my opinion, because lots of people rave about this. But then we have Hangman, which again, not a DNF forever, but certainly a DNF for now. I just found it confusing. I wasn't sure where I was at with it sometimes, so yeah. The Maiden, which I enjoyed way more than I thought I was going to. This is a proper historical romp. Great characters. The more I think about Violet as a character particularly, the more I think she's one of my favourite historical characters in a while. Although, does fall into the tropes a bit, so I guess that is, well, there's a question there around originality, I suppose. And then, penultimately, we have, but my second favourite, Western of this video, Western Lane by Chetna Maru. Yep, that's right, got more than one copy. And actually, do you know what? I really, really want the American edition because it's a stunner. Moving on. This, I was just really captivated by, and I thought it looked at grief in a truly beautiful, frank, heartbreaking way, and I will never forget that one scene in that book. And when that happens, I do think, again, I mentioned magic with writing before, but that for me is this. And I should say, actually, I should mark this on the, in terms of accessibility, yes, I thought the squash was going to be difficult to get into, but it isn't at all. I love the way that it brought you into the family at this really difficult time, and I think Chetna Maru does that wonderfully. Excellent writing. I thought the writing was brilliant. Like I said, there's that one segment that will stay with me forever. Originality, it felt fairly original to me. I mean, again, that originality thing is just really, really tricky because they say there's nothing new under the sun, don't they? So there's that. There we go. And I need to do the same with my favourite of the reads from this vlog, In Defence of the Act by Effie Black. In terms of accessibility, completely. I felt like I knew Jessica. I felt like I was kind of somebody in her social sphere, I guess. I'm not going to say I felt like we were friends, but I definitely feel like I was a good acquaintance-ish. And I loved the way you had these real, just everyday moments. And I love it when authors make the ordinary feel extraordinary, plus all the deep and difficult conversations this book has, I think is phenomenal, yet completely accessible. Excellent writing. The font may put me off a bit, but that's not the writing, although I guess the font is the, oh, what's the word I want to use? I guess the font is the visual of the writing, so there is a thing, but the writing itself I just thought was brilliant, engaging, heartbreaking, frank, brutal, brilliant. And in terms of originality, definitely, I don't feel like I've read a book like this before. And so, yeah, there we go. So that's that. Now, that does mean I have got, I think, about 10 or 11 days, because I want to get the shortlist read by next Sunday to get through, here we go, this pile of books. Can I do it? Can I do 7 books in 10 days? A couple of them are short. We shall see. Maybe there'll be a few DNFs on the way. A bit worried about the red won't lie. That's my next mission and will be my next vlog. If you've read any of these, don't tell me about them yet. Please wait until the next vlog. That would mean a lot to me. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I'd love to know your thoughts on the books that I have. Oh, am I going to be able to hold these up at the same time? Probably not. The books that I have read. Oh, nearly. Oh. The books that I have read so far. I would love your thoughts on those. And also, leave me a book emoji if you wanna. That'd be really, really nice. And yeah, let's have a chat in the comments down below. Thank you, as always, for watching. This has been a bit of a long one. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. And I will see you in another video very, very soon. Bye.